Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I have a business called McDuff's Cool Stuff where I buy and sell almost anything. And this was something that I got out of a storage locker. It's a German made 1990s Kett car. It's a toy car for kids. And it was in kind of rough shape. It had some weird things attached to it. So I tried to clean it up the best I can. This is not a full restoration, but it is basically a cleanup so that the car can be resold to another customer that was interested in it. And so the first thing I had to do was to take off all these goofy things, like they put a headlight on here and everything. So that's going to all come off, and then give it a good cleanup and reassemble it. Here you can see that the steering doesn't work. The rod that connects it to the axle, the steering mechanism completely came off. There's the shot of the handle that was chewed by a dog or something. So here's what we got. So we're going to need to take some things apart, we're going to clean them, and we're going to start with the seat. So the seat was just held on by 4 bolts, and they came off pretty easily. And the seat was not in bad condition, other than just need a good cleaning and once over. So once the seat was removed, we were able to kind of see if there was any other damage underneath, and luckily there was not damage. Sometimes that area can, kids will get in crashes and things like that, and they'll start messing up the mechanism. Remove that goofy headlamp, it does not belong there. And there's the original Kett Car badge in the front, and that's going to need to be restored a bit too. The paint's all come off and everything is pretty dirty. So this car had a lot of use over the years, and everything still basically worked. It really didn't need any mechanical work at all to it, other than reattaching the steering. So here I'm going to be removing the chain guard. They had a top chain guard and a bottom chain guard, and both of those were pretty scuffed up. So like I said, I was looking to resell this thing, so I wanted to make it look as nice as possible, and by doing so, maybe you can get a little bit better price for it. The little gear shift knob was way too far gone to be repaired, so I ended up finding the U.S. Company for Kett Car, and they have a place where you can order parts. The parts, unfortunately, did not come in time to finish the video, as I'd already sold the car, but I gave the parts to the person who bought the car so they could attach the knob later on. The steering comes off pretty easy. It's just one bolt holding the whole thing on. And in order to repair the steering wheel has to come off too, so the rod can be removed and then reattached later on. There's no bolts holding it together. It just kind of hooks around the axle in the front. Now we're going to move around to the chain mechanism, and it's a very simple mechanism. When you move the lever in one direction, it engages the wheels so that the pedals will be driven by the chain. When you release it, when you move it in the other direction, then you're pretty much like gliding. So that if you were going down a hill or something like that, your feet wouldn't be trying to catch up the whole time. They would just let you glide. And luckily, these things have a brake, because my feeling is always better to be able to stop than go. So I was removing the bolts here that hold on the bottom chain guard, and it just needed a good cleaning up. It wasn't all scuffed up or anything like that. It was just basically dirty. Okay, well, here's the cleaning part, and I basically just had to put all the different parts inside of the soapy water here. I just used some dishwashing soap to get the grease and stuff off of it. And of course, my dog had to come by and stick her nose and everything. And like I said, dogs, they're not really interested in restoration at all. They're pretty much just there to get in the way of what you're doing. but I also had to scrub the wheels really good too. I didn't remove the wheels. I know a lot of restoration videos, they dismantle the entire thing that they're working on, but I just really didn't have time for that. This is more of a business decision on this one. I had to get this thing ready to go so I could sell it and get my money back on it. And then it also needed a little work with removing some rust. There was some rust that was on there, and so I would use a little bit of WD-40 and some steel wool, and that took the rust right off of it pretty nicely. Yeah, you can spray this stuff directly on painted surfaces, and it's really fine. You just have to wipe it off really good when you're done so you don't leave a residue. Here I'm putting some Armor All on the black plastic parts, and that will protect it and make it nice and dark again, so it's a little bit, a little bit shinier and everything. So it looks a little newer on that. So I applied Armor All to all the black parts, and I just rubbed it in really well. And I'd suggest using gloves with this stuff too, because it gets on your hands and makes your hands kind of slippery as well. So when you try to go use the steering wheel in your own car, things get a little bit slippery. So yeah, I'd suggest using some gloves with all this, even though I didn't in the shot. Yeah, there it's clearing up pretty nicely. I let it sit out in the sun to dry for a while. And you can see the name of the company in the back is Kettler. That's the company that makes this product. And of course I had to do the wheels as well. And it works just as well on your own car as well as a toy like this, and make the wheels nice and black. I taped off some of the badge so I wouldn't get black paint all over the place. I really just wanted to touch the tops of the letters that were kind of protruding about. So I just applied some glossy black paint right to the letters. I think this is even Rust-Oleum. It says it works on plastic, so I put it to the test here. So I just applied some black paint just to the tops of it, and just trying to be real careful. And then, of course, it needed a second coat because it was pretty far gone, the black paint that was on there. Well, now it's time to reassemble, and so I put the chain guards back on, and it just attached with a few nuts and bolts too, and they got a coat of Armor All as well to help make them nice and black. There's It's a little tricky trying to put these two together, but it came together eventually. Just I need another set of hands really to do it properly. And there's the rod that would attach the steering. So I reattached the little J hook on the end of it to the steering mechanism, and then just brought the rod right through this cover, this black cover that's on there, and that's what holds the steering column in place as well. Then just attach the steering wheel with one bolt right to the end of that rod. And you have to kind of admire the simplicity of the engineering of this. It doesn't have a lot of crazy over-engineered parts to it. It's very simply put together and very strong. There's a lot of metal in here. There are plastic parts, of course, as you can see, but everything is very durable with this thing. My own kids had theirs for a long time, and then we ended up selling it to somebody else, years ago. But that was one tough car. So here I'm reattaching the steering wheel, and it only goes on one way. So that's actually kind of handy, just trying to find that one place to get it going on correctly. And it looks like it's upside down, but that's the way it goes on. You know, when I ended up with it, it looked like it might have been upside down, but it's actually that's the correct way that it's supposed to be mounted on here. It only attaches the one direction. The brake needs to be, I guess, persuaded to go into the right position. It's just a metal bar that when you pull the handle, the metal bar rubs up against the tire and slows you down. So if you're in gliding mode, you know, if you pull the lever back and you're gliding, you can use that to start the car instead of your shoes. So you don't have to pull a Fred Flintstone on all this. But it just was not, I don't know how it got out of that place because it was really hard to put it back without dismantling the whole thing and reattaching it. So it went back on there. And there's the seat. It's looking pretty good. You know, the seat looks almost like new. So the armor all really worked. You can't put more than one coat of that stuff on, but I figure why make it too slippery? You don't want some kid slipping right out of the thing. So I didn't want to make it too crazy on there. So just put the 4 bolts back in, and it has different positions, so you can make it further as you grow taller. You can move the seat back. And then I had to just attach the handles. I put the old ones back on because the new ones had not arrived yet. So just for the sake of finishing it, I put the brake handle and the gear shift, or what was left of the gear shift, back onto the car. And here's what it looks like all finished. And it came out looking pretty good. I have to admit, it's not new, of course, but it's much easier to sell when everything is cleaned up and looking nice. And then you're probably wondering, well, what happened to the badge in the front? Well, after I took all these shots, I realized I'd not attached the badge to the front. So here we are, putting the little Kett Car badge, and that'll complete this project. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I do put out videos occasionally, and either on restoration or on storage locker finds. Thanks.